That's not happening.
This was not a real good interview in my estimation, because it doesn't help the player at all.
They will know they've forgotten more than I know in terms of their sources, their context.
Stephen A., do you feel like his comments are foul?
If you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening.
That so much of what happened to Shedeur Sanders at draft day to drop to the 144th pick out what was going on with Shedeur Sanders coming into the draft.
They try to make it seem with Deshaun like we're all on board. This is our guy. Why are we not saying every quarterback that we have on this field, we want to see, we believe in all of them, we want to see it. I
will proclaim to you on national television that so much of what happened to Shedeur Sanders at draft day, those were people that were hell-bent on making sure that Deion Sanders didn't get his way. And they punished his son to punish him. Deion knows it, I know it, anybody with sense know it.
I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call.
They ain't all on the same page with this pick. And when you're not all on the same page with this pick, I've been in enough personnel meetings to know this. Personal biases come into things.
I think he made the most of the month away from the team.
They want to make it an organic competition, or there are ultimately going to be some people who are saying, I didn't want this guy.
I think capitalized on it, and now you're starting to see a little bit more confidence in some of the throws he's making.
There was talk in league circles that he started out kind of behind just because of the offense that he ran in Colorado.
If he continues to do that, then it's hopefully going to give him more opportunities to continue growing, which is all anyone can really ask from him. Bill Musgrave has a personal relationship with Deion Sanders. I mean, it's bizarre to me that there's this conspiracy that the Browns are trying to hold back somebody they took the time to draft, have people with familiarity with both with the father, and just they need any success they can get. Why would they, punish the kid, punish themselves? One of those rookies has real talent. It changes the entire fortune of the franchise. All we can ask for is that he continues to grow in what they're asking him to do, and if he does that, I think he's going to continue to get more opportunities to prove himself, and especially when we get into the preseason.
I hope the young man gets his opportunity to get on the field one way or another.
There's a segment of the fan base that thinks that the Browns are trying to hold him back. They want any answer that is a good NFL quarterback.
A couple really nice throws down the field. He's doing what he's supposed to, making the plays, hopefully, that the Browns want him to make.
By his haters assisted in that happening to him, that resonates with us. That doesn't make you wrong, doggy. I'm simply saying you are entitled to look at it your way, and I'm entitled to look at it my way.
What if I told you that 32 NFL teams conspired to destroy the career of a quarterback before it even started? That Shedeur Sanders, who threw for 3,926 yards and 35 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions, was systematically blacklisted not for his talent, but because the NFL was terrified of what his family represents? Jimmy Haslam just accidentally exposed the entire conspiracy on camera, and what he revealed will make you question everything you think you know about how the NFL really operates. The fall of Shedeur Sanders from projected top 3 pick to 144th overall wasn't talent evaluation, it was character assassination disguised as scouting. Today, I'm going to prove that the NFL orchestrated the most sophisticated takedown in draft history, using psychological warfare, media manipulation, and coordinated organizational resistance to prevent the Sanders family from building a dynasty that would threaten the league's power structure. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Shedeur's recent first-team success isn't just impressive, it's dangerous to the very people who tried to bury him. Jimmy Haslam's press conference wasn't just bad optics, it was a smoking gun. When the Browns owner admitted he would have laughed them out of the building if told they'd draft Shedeur Sanders on Friday night, he accidentally revealed the depth of league-wide resistance to the Sanders family. Think about the timeline here. Friday night, Haslam is laughing at the idea. Saturday afternoon, they're selecting Sanders at pick 144. What changed overnight? According to Stephen A. Smith sources, it wasn't talent evaluation, it was damage control. The conspiracy to suppress Sanders had become so obvious that even the Browns, despite their owner's personal resistance, couldn't ignore the optics of passing on legitimate talent. Haslam's enthusiasm describing his rejection, with the same energy as someone describing root canal surgery, reveals the emotional investment NFL owners had in preventing Sanders' success. This wasn't business, it was personal. The same owner who guaranteed $230 million to Deshaun Watson, turning Cleveland into the NFL's biggest punchline, suddenly developed financial consciousness when it came to a fifth-round pick with elite college statistics. But here's where it gets sinister. Haslam's comment about having the right people in the conversation exposes the coordinated nature of this suppression. Who are these mysterious right people? According to Dom Foxworth's analysis, when personnel decisions flip overnight like Sanders' selection did, it indicates organizational chaos. But what if it indicates something worse? What if it indicates external pressure? The Browns weren't acting alone. Stephen A. Smith's revelation that people were hell-bent on making sure Deion Sanders didn't get his way suggests a league-wide effort. When Smith states that NFL executives punished his son to punish him, he's describing systematic retaliation disguised as talent evaluation. Consider this: Sanders' completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, and pressure performance all scream NFL-ready talent. Yet 31 teams passed on him multiple times. The mathematical impossibility of this happening organically becomes clear when you examine the coordination required. This wasn't 32 independent evaluations reaching the same conclusion. This was 32 organizations following the same directive. Haslam's admission that he wasn't on the same page with this pick reveals the internal conflict between organizational directive and individual resistance. The Browns owner was following league guidance until the optics became untenable. His public distancing wasn't protecting Andrew Berry, it was protecting himself from association with a decision that contradicted the lead Sanders suppression campaign. The most damning evidence? Haslam's complete comfort taking credit for Watson's disaster while desperately avoiding association with Sanders' selection. This selective ownership reveals the external pressure influencing these decisions. When owners fear being associated with drafting talent, you're witnessing institutional control, not talent evaluation. The systematic destruction of Shedeur Sanders began long before draft day through sophisticated media manipulation designed to create artificial doubt about generational talent. This wasn't accidental bias, this was coordinated psychological warfare. Stephen A. Smith's conspiracy theory about Sanders' draft fall hitting different when you examine the timeline reveals the orchestrated nature of this campaign. A quarterback projected as a top 3 selection doesn't tumble to pick 144 without external forces manipulating the narrative. Smith's assertion that this fall was so dramatic it would make cliff divers jealous understates the impossibility of organic talent evaluation producing such results. The media's role in this conspiracy becomes clear when examining the disconnect between Sanders' actual performance and public perception. His final season statistics, 3,926 yards, 35 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, represent consistent excellence under pressure, yet media coverage focused on manufactured controversies and artificial concerns about his readiness. According to Smith's sources, league insiders were making sure Deion Sanders didn't get into the quarterback position. This reveals the true target of the campaign. The NFL wasn't just suppressing Shedeur, they were preventing the establishment of a Sanders Dynasty that would challenge existing power structures. Deion's influence, combined with Shedeur's talent, represented a threat to the league's carefully controlled narrative about player development and organizational authority. The psychological warfare extended beyond simple negative coverage. Media outlets systematically amplified concerns about Sanders' college system while ignoring his individual excellence. Robert Breyer's reporting that Sanders initially struggled with Cleveland's offensive system because Colorado ran a simplified college scheme became the narrative foundation for questioning his NFL readiness, despite every rookie quarterback facing similar transitions. But here's the smoking gun. Scouts who actually watched Sanders play rather than letting personal feelings cloud their judgment consistently rated his arm talent and decision-making as first-round caliber. The disconnect between professional evaluation and public perception reveals the artificial nature of the negative narrative. When expert analysis contradicts media coverage this dramatically, you're witnessing manufactured opinion, not organic assessment. The media's complicity becomes obvious when examining their treatment of Sanders versus other quarterback prospects. While Sanders faced scrutiny for simplified college schemes, other quarterbacks with inferior statistics received positive coverage despite similar or worse system concerns. This selective application of criticism reveals coordinated messaging designed to suppress specific targets. The psychological impact on Sanders himself demonstrates the campaign's effectiveness. Despite elite college performance, he was forced to attack the learning curve like his career depended on it because it literally does. The artificial pressure created by media manipulation forced Sanders to overcome not just normal rookie challenges, but manufactured doubt about his fundamental abilities. Most revealing is the media's current surprise at Sanders' training camp success. When Jerry Jeudy praises Sanders' growing confidence and precision and Myles Garrett states he can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the league, media outlets act shocked by performance that should have been expected based on college production. This manufactured surprise reveals their previous coverage was artificially negative, designed to suppress rather than evaluate. Shedeur Sanders' explosive training camp performance isn't just impressive development, it's the systematic destruction of a carefully constructed lie. When Nick Wright declares Sanders deserved to be the starter and experts begin acknowledging his elite abilities, they're not discovering new talent, they're admitting they ignored existing excellence. The most damning evidence of the conspiracy's failure comes from Sanders' immediate success with first-team reps. Garrett Bush's observation that Sanders has really stepped up his game and shown tremendous growth in knowledge of the playbook reveals the artificial nature of previous concerns. Players don't develop this rapidly unless the barriers to their success were artificially constructed. Wright's brutal assessment of the Browns' quarterback room exposes the conspiracy's ultimate goal, forcing Sanders to compete against deliberately inferior options. When Wright states Kenny Pickett is flatly not an NFL quarterback and dismisses Joe Flacco as past his prime, he's revealing the Browns' quarterback situation was intentionally weakened to create artificial competition for Sanders. The statistical dominance Wright references, Sanders consistently at the top or at least outshining the other quarterbacks in completion percentage, decision-making, and overall efficiency, proves the suppression campaign's failure. Despite systematic attempts to limit his opportunities, Sanders' talent is undeniable when given equal footing. Chris Broussard's call for the Browns to put Sanders in and let him prove what he could do represents the media's recognition that their previous suppression campaign has failed. When Broussard states Sanders could very well be the franchise quarterback Cleveland's been searching for, he's admitting the obvious: the talent was always there, artificially hidden by coordinated resistance. The most revealing aspect of Sanders' training camp breakthrough is the surprise it's generating among NFL personnel. Myles Garrett's immediate confidence that Sanders can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the league shouldn't be shocking news. It should be expected based on college performance. The fact that it's treated as a revelation exposes the artificial nature of previous evaluations. Sanders' own response to his success reveals his understanding of the conspiracy against him. His emphasis on having a deeper level of understanding and needing to maximize his opportunity shows awareness that he's fighting more than normal rookie challenges. His statement about changing his mentality and mental standpoint reveals the psychological warfare he's overcome. The organizational panic surrounding Sanders' success becomes obvious in the shifting narratives. Suddenly, coaches are starting to call more complex routes and protection schemes, and Sanders is receiving more first-team reps. This rapid elevation isn't normal development, it's damage control as the conspiracy's failure becomes undeniable. Jerry Jeudy's praise of Sanders' growing confidence and precision since OTAs reveals the timeline of the conspiracy's collapse. As Sanders gained access to equal opportunities, his superiority became impossible to hide. The growth Jeudy describes isn't development, it's the revelation of suppressed excellence. Bush's certainty that Sanders will earn the starting job if he keeps making plays and impressing represents the conspiracy's complete failure. When organizational insiders acknowledge that talent will ultimately prevail, they're admitting the artificial nature of previous barriers. The NFL's resistance to Shedeur Sanders represents more than a personal vendetta. It's institutional protection of a power structure threatened by the Sanders family's potential dynasty. The league's systematic suppression reveals their fear of losing control over player development narratives and organizational authority. Stephen A. Smith's assertion that executives were hell-bent on making sure Deion Sanders didn't get his way exposes the true nature of this resistance. This wasn't about Shedeur's individual talent. It was about preventing Deion's influence from establishing a new model of player development that would challenge existing systems. The institutional nature of this resistance becomes clear when examining the coordinated response across multiple organizations. When Smith states that anybody with sense knows about the punishment campaign, he's describing an open secret within NFL circles. This level of coordination requires institutional directive, not individual bias. The Browns' internal chaos, as described by Dom Foxworth, reveals the conflict between institutional pressure and organizational needs. When personnel decisions flip overnight, it indicates external forces overriding internal evaluation. Foxworth's observation that this usually means the organization lacks a unified vision understates the reality. It means the organization is following external directives that contradict their needs. Haslam's desperate attempt to distance himself from Sanders' selection while embracing Watson's disaster reveals the institutional pressure influencing these decisions. The same owner comfortable with a $230 million guaranteed contract suddenly develops selective memory about a fifth-round pick selection. This selective ownership reveals the external forces shaping organizational behavior. The institutional resistance extends beyond individual teams to league-wide coordination. The mathematical impossibility of Sanders falling to pick 144 based on talent evaluation alone requires systematic coordination across multiple organizations. When 31 teams pass on elite talent multiple times, you're witnessing institutional directive, not independent assessment. The NFL's fear of the Sanders Dynasty becomes obvious when examining their response to Deion's coaching success at Colorado. The league's comfort with traditional power structures, established coaches, conventional development systems, organizational hierarchy, is threatened by Deion's alternative model of player development and family-based support systems. Bill Musgrave's personal relationship with Deion Sanders represents the institutional threat the league fears. When coaches have direct connections to alternative development systems, it challenges the league's control over player preparation and evaluation. The Browns' decision to hire someone with Sanders family connections reveals their recognition of this alternative system's effectiveness. The institutional panic becomes obvious in the rapid narrative shift surrounding Sanders' training camp success. When organizations suddenly discover talent they previously ignored, it reveals the artificial nature of previous evaluations. The speed of this recognition, from draft day rejection to training camp revelation, exposes the coordinated nature of the original suppression. The league's ultimate fear is the establishment of a Sanders development model that produces NFL-ready talent outside traditional systems. Shedeur's success threatens to validate alternative approaches to player development, potentially undermining the league's control over talent evaluation and organizational authority. The institutional resistance to Sanders represents the NFL's broader fear of losing control over the narratives that justify their power structure. When talent succeeds despite systematic suppression, it exposes the artificial nature of existing evaluation systems and threatens the league's carefully maintained authority. The NFL's systematic suppression of Shedeur Sanders represents their ultimate fear, the establishment of a Sanders dynasty that would fundamentally alter the league's power dynamics and challenge decades of carefully constructed institutional control. The league's terror of Deion Sanders' influence extends far beyond individual player development. When Stephen A. Smith reveals that executives were determined to prevent Deion Sanders from getting his way, he's describing institutional fear of a paradigm shift that would threaten existing power structures. Deion's success at Colorado proved that alternative development systems could produce elite talent outside traditional NFL control. The dynasty threat becomes clear when examining the Sanders family's potential impact on league dynamics. Shedeur's combination of elite talent and Deion's developmental expertise represents a self-contained system that doesn't require traditional organizational support. This independence threatens the NFL's carefully maintained control over player development and evaluation narratives. The league's coordinated response reveals their understanding of the dynasty's potential scope. When Smith states that Sanders was punished to punish Deion, he's describing preventive action designed to stop a dynasty before it begins. The NFL recognized that Shedeur's success would validate Deion's methods and potentially attract other elite prospects to alternative development systems. The institutional panic surrounding Sanders' training camp breakthrough exposes the dynasty prevention campaign's failure. Myles Garrett's immediate recognition that Sanders can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the league represents the collapse of artificial barriers designed to suppress his development. When elite players acknowledge Sanders' abilities, the league's suppression narrative becomes unsustainable. The Browns' organizational chaos reflects the broader institutional conflict between dynasty prevention and competitive necessity. Haslam's reluctance to embrace Sanders despite his obvious talent reveals the external pressure to maintain the suppression campaign. However, competitive reality eventually overrides institutional directive when talent becomes undeniable. The dynasty's true threat lies in its potential to inspire systemic change. Sanders' success despite coordinated suppression proves that elite talent can overcome institutional resistance. This validation threatens to encourage other prospects to pursue alternative development paths, potentially undermining the NFL's control over talent pipelines. The league's fear extends to the Sanders family's media influence and cultural impact. Deion's platform and Shedeur's potential success create a powerful combination that could reshape public perception of player development and organizational authority. This cultural influence threatens the NFL's carefully managed narratives about meritocracy and fair evaluation. The prevention campaign's ultimate failure becomes obvious in the rapid narrative shifts surrounding Sanders' emergence. When experts like Nick Wright declare Sanders should be starting and Chris Broussard calls for his immediate elevation, they're acknowledging the artificial nature of previous suppression. This recognition represents the dynasty prevention campaign's complete collapse. The NFL's systematic resistance to Sanders reveals their broader fear of losing control over the narratives that justify their authority. When alternative development systems produce superior results, it exposes the limitations of traditional organizational approaches and threatens the league's carefully maintained power structure. The Sanders Dynasty represents more than individual success. It represents proof that excellence can emerge despite institutional resistance, potentially inspiring systemic change that would fundamentally alter the NFL's power dynamics and challenge decades of carefully constructed control. The evidence is undeniable. Shedeur Sanders wasn't evaluated, he was systematically suppressed by an NFL conspiracy designed to prevent a dynasty that would threaten the league's power structure. From Jimmy Haslam's accidental confession to the coordinated media manipulation, from the artificial draft fall to the training camp revelation, every piece of evidence points to institutional resistance disguised as talent evaluation. But here's what the NFL didn't count on: talent this exceptional can't be suppressed forever. Sanders' explosive training camp performance, his immediate success with first-team reps, and the recognition from elite players like Myles Garrett prove that excellence ultimately overcomes conspiracy. The dynasty they tried to prevent is happening anyway. The dynasty they tried to prevent is happening anyway. The question now isn't whether Shedeur Sanders will succeed, it's how the NFL will respond when their conspiracy is fully exposed. Will they double down on suppression, or will they be forced to acknowledge that their systematic resistance was wrong from the beginning? This story is bigger than one quarterback or one family. It's about institutional power, artificial barriers, and the lengths organizations will go to maintain control. Sanders' success threatens to expose similar suppression campaigns against other prospects who didn't have the platform or persistence to overcome coordinated resistance. What other prospects do you think have been systematically suppressed by NFL politics? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one, and the patterns you're identifying might be the key to exposing the next conspiracy. And if you want to see me break down the evidence of institutional bias against other elite prospects, smash that subscribe button because this investigation is just getting started. The Sanders Dynasty is rising despite everything the NFL threw at them. Don't miss what happens next. Click the video on screen now to see how this conspiracy connects to other suppressed talents across the league. The truth is bigger than you think.